Today we're going to talk about low waste, living more of a low waste lifestyle. You might hear a lot of people talking about living a zero waste lifestyle, and there's lots of videos that are out that are talking about that. I find that to be intriguing and interesting. It's really great that some people can find that works for them. I do feel like that is probably going to be really hard for the average person because we just don't live in a culture that is conducive to living certain kinds of lifestyles. It would just take so much work and energy and effort in order to make that happen. And again, it's really admirable that some people can do it, but it's just not, to me, something that is sustainable for the average person, at least not right now. Our society would have to kind of catch up a little bit. But there is such a thing as having some low waste habits. A lot of you are probably doing a lot of it already, things that I feel like are helpful to incorporate into what we do so that we can kind of reduce in whatever way possible our carbon footprint. So for me, what I was going to do for you today is to share with you 5 ways that I have reduced my waste over the last maybe 3 years or longer. Some of these habits I've had for a while, even before I was really being more intentional about doing this. A lot of us are really already familiar with the idea of bringing your own reusable grocery bags. Some grocery stores are charging for bags. Now in Minnesota, as of January 1st, 2020, every grocery store is charging a nickel, at least a nickel. Some might be charging more. So it really is incentive to bring your own. I tend to travel with grocery bags in my car. And sometimes you don't need a bag at all. If you're walking to the corner store and you are just buying a gallon of milk and some popcorn or something like that, we're so accustomed to the cashier putting items in a bag. But what if you don't need a bag? If it's just 1 or 2 items, you can maybe stick something in your pocket. So I've been more intentional about saying, no, I don't need a bag in those times when I really can manage without it. So you hear about that. You hear about reusable grocery bags. You hear about reusable water bottles instead of having to use the plastic that you purchase, the bottled water. It's just not very good for you. It's not good for the environment. If you can buy your Brita filter, or if you are able to get a filtering system on your home, if you are able to buy water by the gallon, that's great. And then you can pour that into your reusable water bottle. So that's something to be more intentional about. Sometimes we don't think about those small things that we can do that could really have a great impact if we're doing it quite regularly. The other thing is if you do live walking distance from any store or for an errand that you need to run, walk if you can. If your body is able to and the weather allows for it, just take a walk. If it's less than a mile, usually for the average person, that might be okay. Another alternative is to bike if you can, if your body is able to do that. And if the roads aren't icy, then you can bike and maybe even have a wire basket put on the back of your bike. That's what I do in the spring and summer when it's not terribly hot, and in the fall. There are a lot of places around me that are biking distance apart. And so when I feel like I can do that, I do that. So that is an alternative to driving your car, especially when you know you're only going just a couple of blocks away. You don't need to turn that motor on and put those emissions out into the environment if you don't absolutely have to. Some people absolutely have to, and that's not who I'm talking to here. But if you don't absolutely have to, take a walk. Another thing that I do is use cloth napkins. At some point, I decided that I wanted to move from having paper napkins to cloth napkins. I had gone to somebody's house, I think it was for some kind of meeting, and they had cloth napkins, and they weren't fancy. I always thought that if you had cloth napkins, like in my mother's home, that they had to be fancy and on the table and nobody touched them. These were napkins that they were just using. They were all different color, mismatched, and they were sitting kind of, cafe style on a shelf in their kitchen, and it was really super cool how they just used them. We just stick them in the laundry when we're done. We wash them, and we always have enough, for what we need. And the cool thing about cloth napkins is that you can use them over and over again. Unless they're terribly soiled, you don't have to pitch them. Imagine when you're using a paper towel, you're using a napkin. A lot of times you wipe that spaghetti sauce off your face, and after about 3 or 4 little swipes, you need to get another one. At least I do. I'm really messy eater. And I do go through a lot of paper napkins when I'm out at a restaurant and that's all they have. I can be pretty messy. So I've even gotten to the point where I will sometimes stick a cloth napkin in my bag with me so that I can actually use it instead of going through napkin after napkin after napkin, because I do eat out often enough. The fourth thing I do is washing out and saving empty jam jars, pickle jars, condiment jars, anything like that I can reuse again to put my lunch in, to store nuts or raisins or grains in. I've got them all over my kitchen now. I used to, when I first started to be more intentional about this low waste journey, I was buying mason jars, and mason jars can be really beautiful but quite expensive. And I realized you don't have to have them. We buy enough food that comes in jars, glass jars, and all you need to do is just wash them out when you're done and just reuse them. And then the last thing that I would say is shop secondhand. I've been shopping secondhand for 30 some years. There are certain things that I buy only new, certain shoes I buy new, undergarments new, things like that. But for a lot of other things, I buy secondhand. It's something that I choose to do, and I'm intentional about it because I know that I don't need to spend the money to buy something brand new if it's available, reasonably priced, and in good condition. So secondhand. The very last thing, this is the bonus. So I said I was going to share 5 things. I shared 5, but one extra thing I want to share with you is the idea of eating everything that you have, using the food that you have in your house before you replace it or throw it out. We go through a lot of produce. We have a lot of fresh vegetables at our house at any given time, and that means that we have to eat that before it goes bad. And so one of the things that I always suggest is making sure that you pull things out of your refrigerator before you go to the grocery store, check it, and see if it's something that needs to be eaten soon or it's going to be pitched. And go ahead and make older vegetables make great stir fries. They make great casseroles. They're good in soups and sauces, and also they make good broths. That's all I got for you today. This is a longer video than I wanted it to be. Sorry about that, but I had a lot I wanted to share with you. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you next time.